Well, good morning. We're excited to see you. Thanks for coming on a nice cold day. I'm over here today. I know it's a little weird, but I hope you can see me. I'm Andrea. I'll be leading you in worship with our awesome team. If you can stand, we'll get started with the song. To bring peace, to be love, to be nearer to us. So you come to bring life, to be light, to shine brighter in us. Oh, Emmanuel, God with us, our deliverer. You are Savior. In your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption. God with us. You are God with us. Oh, you've come to be hope to this world. For your honor and name, oh, you come to take sin, to bear shame, and to conquer the grave. Oh, Emmanuel, God with us, our deliverer. You are Savior. In your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption. God with us. You are God with us. You are here. You are holy. We are standing in your glory. You are here. You are holy. We are standing in your glory. You are here. You are holy. We are standing in your glory. You are here. You are holy. We are standing in your glory, Lord. Our deliverer, you are Savior. In your presence we find our strength over everything, our redemption. God with us. You are God with us. God with us. You are God with us. And Gloria in excelsis Deo, and Gloria in excelsis Deo. You can take a seat.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is so good to be with you on this. We're suddenly in winter, folks. December, our first December morning, Sunday morning, first December morning regardless, right? My name's Jeremy. I'm the pastor here at the Grove Cottage Grove, and we are a church that exists to grow goodness. And so my hope is that those of you who are able to come back from Thanksgiving and be here in the room today, those of you who are watching online, traveling, or getting healthy, or doing whatever you're needing to do, or anyone interacting with any of us out in the community throughout the week, somehow nurturing healing, wholeness, and beauty in your lives. Right at the top of things, we like to hit some of the most important details, and those important details include, at the front of the service, our information about our kids ministry. So we say that kids here at the Grove are not only welcome, but they are celebrated members of this community, and we like to make the space, both the physical space and the programming space, for that to be the case. So within the worship center, they're welcome to be in here throughout the service. Within the worship center, there are coloring sheets in the backs of the chairs or the pews. Yep, Maddie's holding one up here. Kids, I'm sorry, Bria. This is my daughter, Bria. Kids are welcome. Adults are welcome to take advantage of that as well. We have the quiet wiggle space on the left-hand side here, your right-hand side, for the kids to be able to move their bodies throughout the service if they need that. Then, of course, we have our programming. So we have our staffed kids nursery, which is for ages 3 years and under. That's right out in the commons area. You can check them in there. And then we also have Grove Kids, which is available for kids who are ages 4 through 5th grade. All of the information is either up here on the screen or in this worship handout that hopefully you received as you came in this morning. The one thing that we ask is if this is their first time attending either of those this fall, that they fill out a registration, either one of these physical cards, which is on that back table, or scanning the QR code up here and filling it out online, and then that gets emailed to our team members. One, we want to know their names. Names are important, but then also if there's anything that they need, if they have any medical concerns or any allergies or something that we need to know about so we can best take care of them. I believe that's it for upfront announcements when it comes to the kids. So at this point, we are going to move into this portion of the service which we call Connection Point. Connection Point is your opportunity to connect with people around you and to build meaningful relationships, even across forced interactions. So in just a few moments, we will give you the opportunity to stand up, find someone near you don't know or don't know very well, introduce yourself, and then because having some of those interactions, even forced ones, can be a little bit difficult at times, we give you one thing every week to talk about if you have no idea what to talk to this person about. So this week, we're starting a new series. We're in this Advent season leading up to Christmas. We're starting a new series that's about angels. And one of the questions that kind of started the idea that became this series was, do you ever think about angels? My response was no. So maybe that is your response, but maybe some of you do think about angels. And so the follow-up question to that is why, or what do you think about angels if you're thinking about angels regularly? Make sense? Okay, so why don't you take the opportunity, stand up, find someone near you don't know very well, introduce yourself, discuss this question. We'll reconvene in a couple of minutes. In here, I was going to tell you when it was 9:58 and there were like 4 people in here, we might want to keep it a pretty tight shot today.
That's fine.
But it's filled in.
My background is in reputation management.
There you go. Reputation management.
get yourself ready here. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Every color, shape, and type, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world.
I don't know how you're feeling this morning. I'm feeling a little like slow going. That's kind of been even my waking up process this morning. I feel like collectively we did that. There were like 5 people in the room at 10 o'clock, and you've slowly filtered in. We've got a great crowd today. As you came in this morning, hopefully you received one of these, our worship handout. If you did not, they should be there on the back table. On the inside has some of the most important information that you're going to want to know about the church, how we got started, what our values are, how to give to make sure this thing that we love continues to be possible. Then also on the inside, there's what we call our worship insert. So this is your opportunity to let us know that you're here with us today, and or request any information about any number of things, or to submit prayer requests as well. So if you fill this out, the date today, if that is going to prevent you from filling it out, is 12/1. And then you can fill out contact information if you would like to share that with us here. And on the back, there are different boxes. I'll refer to some of these boxes in just a few minutes that you can check to request information about specific things. And then, like I said, there's also a spot for you to submit prayer requests if you have anything that you would like us to join you in praying about. Back to the worship handouts. If you look at the back, we have the 3 things that we've been keying in on over the last 7 weeks specifically. So the first one is, folks, this is our last week of having one service on a Sunday morning. Some reservations here? We're like, ready or not, here we go. It all begins next week. So starting next week, we will not see you at 10 o'clock unless you are here halfway through the 9:30 service. Because we're starting next week, we have a 9:30 and an 11 a.m. Beginning next week, December 8th. So this is going to be an all-hands-on-deck effort to ensure that this is a successful thing. We truly believe that this is going to be a success, and we need your help to make sure it's a success. So the 3 things that we are really trying to key in on and asking of our folks who are committed to this being their church home are to volunteer. I'll talk more about that in just a second. To attend, like actually prioritize being here so we can fill the room and make those 2 services feel like there is energy and a critical mass in the room. And then third, to invite, especially during the Christmas season. This is a time when people who might otherwise feel weird about getting an invitation to church might be more open to it than at other times during the year. So be thinking through who are the people that could benefit from this type of community that we've been growing for the last 3 years, and that we could benefit from having a part of this community. So back to that first thing about volunteering. We just finished this series, which we called Stepping in It, which is about stepping into new things and taking the risk of maybe making mistakes but failing forward. And so one of the best ways for you to contribute to this new effort that we have going on with 2 services, and just to contribute to the life of the church in general, but also to find your place to help grow goodness, is to find a volunteer opportunity. So if you are not yet in a spot, especially on a Sunday morning position where you are using your gifts and passions, we would love to help you find that position. So you can either scan that QR code and look at a bunch of them online, or you can fill this out, drop it in the back, and check volunteer opportunities, and we will follow up with you to make sure you get plugged in to a spot that fits your gifts and passions. The last thing on here, at least, is around Grove groups. As we move to 2 services, I say very regularly, I've already said this morning, building meaningful relationships is important. It's difficult on Sunday mornings in passing to do that. It's going to become even more difficult as we split this crowd between 2 services. So, acknowledging that is an important thing, Grove groups are the #1 place to learn, grow, and build those meaningful relationships. So we are in the midst of forming those groups, and just so you can kind of get a flavor for what the different groups that are currently forming are going to feel like, we have a group that's specifically around crafting. Yeah. We have a LGBTQ group, We have a group for moms, and specifically working moms. There's a guys/games group. We've got the Felsteds. Where are the Felsteds? They're here today. The Felsteds are like, hey, we'd open up our farm if anybody was interested in that. So if you like the Felsteds, or if you like hanging out on a farm, they are forming a group as well. And then there's also a group of people who expressed interest in Bible study and like wanting to re-engage with the Bible in a different way, but also like take it seriously. And so we have a group that's forming around Bible study as well. If you have interest in any of those groups, you can either scan that QR code and sign up online, or again, fill this thing out, and on the back, check Grove groups. And if any of those specific groups that I just mentioned are piquing your interest, you can write that on there as well, and we will, again, connect you with the information you need for that. The last thing, which is not on here, but we do have a slide for, is that in 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, December 15th, we have our Grove Kids Christmas program coming up. One, we let you know that so that you can plan to attend, but then also if you have kids who want to participate, there's 2 things that we need to know. One, if they want to participate, you need to let Chelsea, our kids director, know so that we can make sure there are enough costumes. But then secondly, we have a pre-recorded piece that the recordings are actually starting today immediately after worship. If they want to participate in that pre-recording stuff, you need to sign up online. We can get you the sign up for that, but they need to sign up online so we get a slot for you to actually do that recording. Again, you can either talk to myself, talk to Chelsea afterwards, and we will get you all the information you need for that. Okay. That's it for announcements. So, over the last 6 weeks, we technically wrapped up our series, Stepping in It, last week. But because we still have 1 more week until we start the second service, we're continuing to do what we have called our volunteer spotlight. So over the last 6 weeks, we've had different volunteers come up and talk about the different volunteering options that are available so that you can kind of get a glimpse of different opportunities that are out there and kind of get an insight into what is done, and maybe, having heard some of that, it might pique your interest in as something that you might be interested in. So today, we're going to talk really quickly about some of the upfront stuff, including service leading and communion serving. This is an upfront thing that does not require a whole lot of prep. If you're here every single week, you know what a service leader does. Usually there's a person standing here next to me as well who basically helps to walk through the information that you need to know every single week. It is a script that we go through every single week. Sometimes you will screw that script up. I screw that script up almost every single week. It does not matter. One of the most important things that a person up here can do is, number one, be comfortable with being in front of people. That's an important one. But then secondly, being another friendly, welcoming face. The details are actually secondary to being another welcoming face up here. In addition to that, we have communion servers. So this happens about once a month when we have communion. We have 2 stations, so myself and then 3 other servers. You don't have to be comfortable with saying anything other than a short line, like a single sentence as we are handing out communion. That's about it. So if those are things, if you are comfortable being in front of people and being a friendly, welcoming face, and in that process kind of being a proxy for the friendliness and the welcome of the church, that's not for everybody, but it might be for you. So if you are interested in that, you can either come talk to me afterwards or, again, fill out the worship handout, check volunteer opportunities, and we will follow up with you to make sure that we can plug you in so that I'm not up here by myself every single week. Make sense? Okay, I think that's it. Now I hand it back to you guys, right?
Amber.
No, Advent. This is the first day of Advent. So Advent, if you are unfamiliar with it, is the Christmas season. Advent is the fancy church word for the Christmas season, this time of anticipation and excitement leading up to the birth of Jesus and to Christmas and all that entails. So one of the things that happens every single week during the Advent season is we light a candle. So throughout the different weeks as we lead up to Christmas, we will light a different candle, and each of those weeks we have someone from the congregation come up to do that candle lighting and then to do a reading as well. So today I'm going to invite up Amber and Eli and Nicholas to lead us in this reading.
From deep in the past, Jeremiah calls to us. The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Jeremiah 33:14. Beloved, the days are surely coming when the yearning of the land, the longing of the sun, moon, and stars, the desperate need of the people of earth for flourishing and peace will receive their fulfillment. While fear, anxiety, misinformation, and suspicion surround us on every side, we choose to watch and wait in hope, preparing our hearts to notice and cooperate with God's grace already at work in our midst.
We light this candle of hope as a sign of our commitment to pay attention and prepare for the days that are surely coming and are already here. The days when God's kingdom of love, justice, and mercy will reign.
Would you stand? Lovers of the world unite, bound to Creator's vision bright, that even these our darkest nights become the light, become the light. Fashion all you can create that delights the one incarnates and links themselves to the same fate as we sleepers who must rise to wake. Our hope beyond all hope did come to call us each and every one to the surface of our consciousness. God dwells within and always has. Put our feet back on the ground. Contemplation's hard resound. We're still pursued by heaven's hound. Oh, lovers, seek us till we're found. Our hope beyond all hope did come to call us each and every one to the surface of our consciousness. God dwells within and always has. Tomorrow's children seek our hearts. Will they know who they really are? The center of 1,000 stars and the breathers of the breath of God. Our hope beyond all hope did come to call us each and every one to the surface of our consciousness. God dwells within and always has. Sing our hope beyond all hope did come to call us each and every one to the surface of our consciousness. God dwells within and always has. This is what we sing at Christmas. God dwells within and always has. You may be seated.
You sound so great today. All right, so we are in this Advent season now. Today is the first day of Advent, and with Advent, we also begin a new series today. And I've talked about this a little bit before, like the genesis of a new series, what that looks like here at the Grove. Some of you know that I'm not the only pastor at the Grove. We have 2 locations, so we also have 2 pastors that are primarily in Woodbury, but we do a lot of working together in collaboration, even and especially when it comes to forming what we're going to be doing in worship. So we have Dan Wetterstrom, who's our lead pastor, and then Kelly Lehman, who is our executive pastor. And when it comes to like even forming individual worship series, we're working together, collaborating, trying to figure out what will be best across locations. This year, however, there have only been 2 series the entire year to this point that I have not been the one who was writing it. And those 2 series were actually the ones that started the year. So the first 2 series of the year were Dan and Kelly. I have written all of the other series until this point. However, once we were getting towards Advent, planning towards Advent, Pastor Dan really wanted to choose the Advent one. We're like, all right, Dan, you run with it. And we were like, both Kelly and I were waiting anxiously because he was taking a while to figure out what he meant or what he was wanting to do. And we try to be months out ahead of things. And then finally, a few weeks ago, he came to the weekly clergy meeting that the 3 of us have together on Monday mornings. And he asked this question. It's going to sound like a familiar question to you. Do you ever think about angels? Both Kelly and I are like, no, never think about angels. What a weird question. And he said, I was just thinking about angels. And I thought it might be a good series for Advent to talk about angels. Okay. So this Advent, we're talking about angels, folks. And I'd be curious to know some of the answers to that question, whether you think about angels whatsoever, and if so, what you think about. Well, because we were doing this series, I've had to do a little bit of thinking about angels, and so I just like sat back and like, when I think about angels, what do I think about? And there were 4 different things that came to mind. The first one was It's a Wonderful Life. You familiar with this movie? Yep, it's like, 80 years old now, something like that. If you're unfamiliar with It's a Wonderful Life, the storyline is there is this George Bailey who, he's got a lot that's going on in his life, and he's convinced that the best thing to do now is actually to jump off a bridge to end his life. The world would be better without him in it. And when he's in that moment, there's an angel named Clarence who comes to him. Clarence is the guy on the left-hand side. Clarence comes to him and essentially grants him his wish and says, you know what, we're gonna role play here, and I'm gonna show you the world as if you were never born into it. So there's Clarence the angel, and then there's also this moment near the end of the movie where there's a little bell that rings on the Christmas tree. There's the bell up there on the right-hand side, and then underneath, if you can read it, his daughter says, teacher says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. And we're all like, Clarence, he finally got his wings, yay. Okay, so that's number 1. This is one of the things that I think of when I think of angels. Number 2 is angels in the outfield. Anybody else think of angels in the outfield? So this is, I don't remember if it's 1993 or 1994. It's one of those 2 years. I'll come back to that date in just a second. But Angels in the Outfield, if you grew up in the 90s, is this story. It stars Christopher Lloyd among with some other notable names, actually. This is a story of a little boy named Roger. He's a huge California Angels baseball fan. And he's estranged from his father, and he's hoping that his family can somehow get back together. And his father says that, okay, our family will get back together when the Angels win the pennant. And like, the Angels are terrible. And so his father says this because he is convinced that this is never going to happen, just like the family's never going to get back together. Well, Roger prays for his favorite baseball team, and suddenly angels appear on the field to help them turn the season around, and spoiler alert, it's been out for 30 years now, they turn it around and they win the pennant. The family does not get back together. Okay, so that's number 2. Sorry. It ends well. Go watch it. It's actually a good ending. The third one, Touched by an Angel. Did any of you watch Touched by an Angel? So I grew up in a conservative Christian household. This was on one of our 4 networks, and it was like appointment TV back in the day. If you're not familiar with Touched by an Angel, this is a story of a woman, well, she's an angel named Monica, and she starts being a case angel. So what her job is, she moves from search and rescue, that was her job before, and now she becomes a case angel where she is going down to earth and meeting with people who need some intervention in their lives. They need to turn their lives around. And by turn their lives around, what they need is like this dramatic encounter explicitly with an angel so that they will give their lives to God before it's too late. Right? Okay, so that's the third one. And then the fourth one is the song Angels Among Us by Alabama. You know, anybody know this song? It's been stuck in my head all week. Country music is not a genre that's well known for subtlety. So here's what the chorus is. If you're unfamiliar with this song, it goes, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hour, show us how to live, teach us how to give, guide us with the light of love. So that's Angels Among Us by Alabama. So those are the 4 things. I don't think about angels, but when I was forced to think about angels, those are the 4 things that were like top of mind. And it tends to be for me, I don't think about angels except when I do. And apparently it seems like us collectively, and by us I mean just people in general, we don't think about angels except for those times that we do. Now, I mentioned the date of one of those movies. The It's a Wonderful Life came out in the 1930s, I believe. But the other 3 examples that I gave happened within a 2-year span, 1993 to 1994, which means in the early 90s, people were apparently thinking a lot about angels. True, like this is a phenomenon. And so there is this question of why right in this spot or in this moment in time were people thinking a lot about angels? And there were 2 different things that came out just a couple years before those movies. One was this book called A Book of Angels, which is just like digging into the study of angels and stories about angels. And then the other one was this play that came out called Angels in America. Anybody familiar with this play? It was also turned into an HBO series or something. But even those things, why were those 2 things of interest in the early 90s that suddenly, when people aren't predisposed to thinking a lot about angels, why were people all of a sudden thinking a lot about angels all the time? Well, as far as these are concerned, Angels in America was a reflection on being gay during the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s. So in the early 1990s, as this was written and being performed, it was like a reflection on all that community had been through in the last decade. You don't think about it until you do, and then you think about it a lot, right? This was also a time of all sorts of religious and political upheaval and uncertainty about what was up ahead. And so in this time when big things were happening, had happened, and were up ahead, people were thinking a lot about angels and what that meant and what that might require of them even. It's like these points at which people feel like they need supernatural intervention are times when they are thinking about angels when they otherwise might not be thinking about them at all. Now, I want to caveat everything that I say the rest of this morning and the rest of this series with, I am not here trying to convince you that you need to believe all of the things about angels. That any single interaction, even that happens in the Bible or outside of the Bible, in any of these stories, that you need to believe that these things are literally what's happening. But I do want to normalize angels a little bit, okay? I want to normalize not only what they represent, but what potentially comes from them and why they kind of enter the consciousness even historically, but also now. One of the things that I want to normalize is that we probably shouldn't think about angels being these people-ish things with big wings. We often think of angels as having these big wings, and we think about these paintings from the Renaissance, these big sculptures as well of these humanoid figures with big wings, but it's actually more accurate that angels weren't seen as having wings until about the 5th century. And even before that, and the time when they started having wings, everybody knew that when you put wings on an angel, you weren't supposed to see that as literal. That these beings of some sort didn't literally have wings. The wings represented something else. So by the 4th century, there was this early Christian leader called John Chrysostom who says this about angels. They, being angels, manifest a nature's sublimity. That is why Gabriel is represented with wings. Not that angels have wings, but that you may know that they leave the heights and the most elevated dwelling to approach human nature. Accordingly, the wings attributed to these powers have no other meaning than to indicate the sublimity of their nature. Does that make sense? Here's what he's saying. They don't have to have wings. The wings represent something. The wings represent that they are coming from somewhere else, delivering something from far beyond us. It's like a supernatural intervention, and the wings kind of represent that, whether they actually have wings or not. So don't get caught up in the wings. Also, don't get caught up just in the name angels. The word angel is a Greek word that comes from the definition of angelos, which is the Greek word, means more accurate way of talking about it is that these are beings that intervene into people's lives. They're often seen as scary. They show up in a story. We're going to read a story in just a minute where they scare people, but they're actually meant as an anti-scare. It's like an anti-jump scare. These intermediate beings, these messengers even are individuals, are people even that intervene in someone's life when they need it most. So when an angel shows up, you should know that something specific is happening. And when an angel has a name, you should pay attention to that as well. So again, we don't think about angels until the times that we need to think about it. That is true of the Bible as well. When we see angels popping up in the Bible, it is the biblical writers and the people within the stories who are recognizing they need some sort of divine intervention because things Bible, when suddenly angels start showing up, these messengers, these people who are intervening in human activities, it is largely around exile being this period of time when the people of Israel were forcibly removed from their land. They were removed from everything that they knew. They were having to rethink all of these things about what it meant to follow God and what it meant to live faithfully in the world. And in that moment, the writers of introduced these messengers, these interveners, because they knew that they needed someone to intervene. And they needed to communicate that somehow in that story so that the people in the story and those outside of it. Super distracting. Give it one more try. So here's an example of one of those stories. Once again, when an angel shows up, you should be trained to think something big is going to happen, especially if that angel is given a name. This is a story from Luke chapter 1. Luke being one of the biographies about the life of Jesus. During the reign of Herod, king of Judea, there lived a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. And he had a wife named Elizabeth who was a descendant of Aaron. They were both righteous in the sight of God, following all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blamelessly. But they did not have a child because Elizabeth was barren, and they were both very old. Now, while Zechariah was serving as priest before God, when his division was on duty, he was chosen by lot according to the custom of the priesthood to enter the holy place of the Lord and burn incense. Now, the whole crowd of people were praying outside at the hour of the incense offering. An angel of the Lord, standing on the right side of the altar of incense, appeared to him. And Zechariah, visibly shaken when he saw the angel, was seized with fear. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will name him John. Joy and gladness will come to you, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great in the sight of the Lord. He must never drink wine or strong drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before his birth. He will turn many of the people to Israel, to the Lord their God. And he will go as a forerunner before the Lord in the spirit and the power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers back to their children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready for the Lord a people prepared for him." Zechariah said to the angel, "How can I be sure of this? For I am an old man and my wife is old as well." The angel answered, "I am Gabriel, who stands in the presence of God, and I was sent to speak to you and to bring you this good news." Anytime an angel shows up, it's kind of weird. But this one specifically, if we dive into the details of Zechariah's life and this moment, it's really strange and really out of the norm, even in the storytelling that's happening at this time. So this is a time at which we talked about the exile. The people of Israel and Judah have been allowed to come back to their home after the exile, but even those who do return, or even those who are back in the land of Israel and even in Jerusalem, it's not the same. It doesn't feel like they've come back because they're still under the occupation of foreigners and having to listen to all the orders of a tyrant. On top of that, God hasn't spoken in 400 years. That's true even for priests like Zechariah. Day after day, year after year, Zechariah goes about his job. He's a priest. He's supposed to be one of those intervening people on behalf of the people. And yet, day after day, he has learned to expect that when he goes into the temple, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to be heard. God has nothing to say. It's almost like those communications that you have with a family member or a friend that you suddenly get out of touch, and slowly over time that separation becomes more and more noticed, to the point where it has been days or weeks or years when you haven't even thought about those people. That's Zechariah as a priest going into the temple. On top of that, he has his own personal experience. He's an old man, his wife is old. For their entire lives together, they have been praying that God would intervene on their behalf, that God would give them a child, and year after year, nothing happens. And so as he goes into this temple, there is an expectation that nothing will happen, just like nothing ever happens, and then an angel shows up. And this angel has a name. And those of us who are reading this story are piqued to think something big is about to happen. But Zechariah, in hearing this, his initial response is what? It's like he can't even bring himself to believe that this is possible, given all that has accumulated in his life. What I find really helpful is that this is how the angel responds. The angel says, "Joy and gladness will come." You can't see it yet. You can't fully understand it. Given all that has accumulated, all that is weighing you down, that is preventing you from believing it now, trust me, joy and gladness will come. So here we are. It is December 1st, 2024, and I'm wondering how you arrive in this room this morning and how you are feeling as we enter into this new season as a church, as we enter into this new season of the year, as we maybe enter into a new season of life for you. It's possible that you feel like Zechariah. You have all of this accumulated experience that suggests that nothing important or meaningful is going to happen. It's possible that you feel like George Bailey. Like all these bad things have happened. I'm convinced that nothing good is going to happen from here. It's possible that you feel like the people of Israel and Judah living in that first century, where you have lost all faith in your nation and whether anything good is going to come from that either. It is possible that you walk in here and you think, I have no idea what to believe, especially when we're talking about angels. It's possible that wherever you are at in your life that you are feeling like you need a little bit of divine intervention, whatever that might look like. Well, as we stand here today, as we enter into this season, as we enter into this series even, I'll tell you something that I believe. I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere in some capacity. Won't say they come from above, but I believe that there are messengers. I believe that there are people even, who can intervene in our lives and somehow show divine favor for us. I believe they come to us in joy. I believe that they come to us in gladness. I believe that they come to us in disappointment. I believe that they come to us in heartbreak. I believe that they can come to us in the monotony of everyday life. I believe that they can come to us as family and friends and even strangers. They don't have to have wings, folks, but I believe nevertheless that people can come and intervene in our lives and somehow speak into the moment that we're at, almost as if it's a divine intervention, and say to us, big and good things are still out ahead of us. So may we collectively be open to hearing that type of message, be open to receiving those type of messengers, and when we are called upon, may we also be those messengers as well. May that be so. With that, we are going to move into a time of communion. Communion is this retelling of an old story from the past of the people of Israel. In his final moments with his closest followers, Jesus gathered around a table to share this meal with his closest followers, to tell them that things were going to be a little bit different going forward. They had this shared story together of God intervening on their behalf to set them free from slavery. And so over the years and decades and centuries, they retold this story to remind themselves that sometimes divine intervention does happen. And so as Jesus gathered with his closest followers around this meal, he let them know there's some big things out in front of us, even in the next 24 hours. In the next 24 hours, he would be betrayed by one of them and turned in. Once that happened, he would eventually be betrayed by all of them. He would then be killed, but then somehow, some way, come back. And in those moments of despair, as their worlds were turned upside down, they were going to need the reminders that sometimes divine intervention does happen. So as he gathered for this meal with them, he took this bread that they were familiar with, he took it and he broke it and said, imagine this is my blood, imagine that this is my body broken for you. Do this as often as you eat this in remembrance of me. And then after the meal, he took a cup, poured out and said, imagine this is my blood, which is poured out for you. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and you drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes again, until that divine interaction indeed happens. So in just a few moments, we'll invite you to come forward. I ended early today, which means our kids might be strolling in a few minutes late. But we'll have some communion servers come forward. We'll invite you to come forward as well. There'll be 2 stations here. First, you will grab one of these pieces of bread. The bread is gluten-free and free of all of the major allergens. So if you are gluten intolerant or have other major allergies, you are welcome to participate. And then you'll take that piece of bread and you'll dip it in the cup. The cup is grape juice. It is not wine. So if you are in recovery, you are welcome to participate. Maybe as you are coming forward with your little ones, you can remind them that if they take, or you take the piece of bread and dip it in the cup and you lose the bread in there, do not go fishing for it. We have plenty more for you to be able to replace it with, especially during cold and flu season. We don't need to be mixing all that together. There's plenty for everyone. The other thing that we want to make sure up front is that we say that this is called the Lord's Supper. or the Lord's table, it is not ours to restrict anyone from. Anyone is welcome to participate in this. You do not have to have all of your theology figured out. You do not have to be a member of this church or any church whatsoever. You do not have to be a grown-up. All the children are welcome to participate as well. What we are convinced of is the best way to experience the grace of God, maybe for the first time, is to experience it. So with that, as we have the kids coming in, I'll have you all repeat after me what we call the mystery of faith. Christ has died. Christ is risen. And Christ is coming again. We'll invite our communion servers to come forward, and as soon as we get settled, you are welcome to come and participate.
Oh, come, all you unfaithful, come, weak and unstable, come. No, you are not alone. Oh, come, lonely and waiting ones, weary of praying. See what your God has done. Christ is born. Christ is born. Christ is born for you. Oh, come, bitter and broken, come, with fears unspoken, come, taste of their perfect love. Oh, come, guilty and hiding ones, there is no need to run. See what your God has done. Christ is born. Christ is born. Christ is born for you. Christ is born. Christ is born. Christ is born for you. For those who seek healing, rest in the knowing that peace is to come. We believe it to come. For those who seek healing, rest in the knowing that peace is to come. We believe it to come. So we come, though we have nothing, come. They are the offering, come. See what our God has done. Christ is born. Christ is born. Christ is born for you. Christ is born. Christ is born. Christ is born.